What is up, everybody? Welcome to this collection video. If you watched the end of my Super Nintendo collection video, you knew what collection video we were going to do next. I'm very excited to be here to talk about the Nintendo 64. Alright, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you do know that I love the N64, and I'm actually going for a complete N64 collection, sort of casually. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the N64 and why I love it. If you just want to watch the game collection, I'll leave a timestamp right here, so you can go check that out. Alright, so while those guys are skipping ahead and checking out the games, I want to talk about the N64. You guys know I love the N64. My girlfriend in high school, wife at the time, girlfriend in high school, wife now, not wife at the time, we weren't married in high school. She bought me this N64. This isn't the exact N64 I had when I was a kid. I actually got this for free from my in-laws. They were like, hey, we're getting ready to throw it away, so do you want it? I'm like, yes. Complete with the styrofoam and everything. Unbelievable. But I remember just having such fond memories of the N64, playing Mario Kart with my brother and my dad, and playing Star Fox. That's probably my favorite N64 game, to be honest, is Star Fox 64. And I just remember it was revolutionary for the time. It was inventive. I know it's, kind of gets a bad rap now, but the controllers were so inventive for the time. They had a joystick on it, and again, you got to put things in the context of time. So one of the things I love about the N64, like I said, I'm actually going for a complete set of N64 games, card only, not worried about box and manual, complete and box stuff. But just kind of whenever I find the games, pick them up if it's in the budget, kind of cheap, price I want to pay, that kind of thing. But what's awesome about the N64 is its library. It's like 296 games, North American, not counting variants and not for sale carts and mail away, stuff like that. And it's just obtainable. When you collect 300 games, you're like, wow, I've achieved something. But it's not so small that it takes you a month or whatever to collect all 14 or 30 games or whatever. Some of the other things I loved about the N64, especially from a collector standpoint now, is subset collecting. So with only 300 games, I mean, there's a ton of sports games, but if you wanted to collect subsets, it's pretty easy to do, and it kind of makes it fun. Like, I want to collect all the snowboarding games. I want to collect all the Mario games. I want to collect all the Rareware games. I want to collect, all the baseball games. I want to collect all the first-person shooter games. And if you wrestling games, I think there's a handful of wrestling games, maybe 10 or so. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's kind of fun to collect these little subsets, and then all of a sudden you've got more than half the collection, which is awesome. The N64 featured a lot of new ideas, new technologies, rumble packs, memory cards, the transfer pack for Pokemon, the Hey You Pikachu mic, just a whole bunch of extras that you could throw on you, like attached to your, I felt like it was like a transformer or something. You were attaching stuff, insert rumble packs and all this other stuff, and it was just awesome to play. The other thing that I really, really love about the N64 that I didn't appreciate back then, when you're a kid and you don't have any money, but now as an adult, from a collector's standpoint, collecting all these bad boys right here, all the Funtastic stuff. And I'm going to show off my Funtastic and variant consoles here in a second, but it just kind of makes it fun to collect because there's not only the 6 or 7 Funtastic, but there's Pikachu edition, there's a gold edition, there's import editions, there's variant types of boxes if you're a box collector. So I really feel that the N64 has something to offer for every type of collector. So with that said, let's check out some of my consoles. Alright, so I'm not going to show the cords and controllers because we all know what N64 controllers look like, but they made a ton of them. Here is my everyday N64 with the expansion pack. Gotta have the expansion pack. I actually got this one from Woodbury and Retro Game Hunter in a contest. Now, at one time I had probably 4 or 5 N64 consoles sitting around my house, and I decided, well, I'll just sell those off, and I only need one console. I made sure I put this little official Nintendo licensed product sticker on Woodbury and Retro Game Hunters. That way I would keep it separate from the other ones. I got that off of a Mario t-shirt, like I think maybe this t-shirt actually, and I put it on there so I would have it on there forever and ever. We have the grape purple, which is a cool color. I like that it's a darker color than the atomic purple controller. Kind of makes it stand out a little bit. I just got this one from my friend Tyler. This is a jungle green N64. I think it'd be really cool to have the box for this because it came with Donkey Kong 64. Got this one in a trade from Carly Kinman. This is the Fire Orange N64. Very, very cool. Make sure those don't fall over. And the last one that I want to show you here is the Ice Blue. This is probably my favorite color just because I like blue so much. And at one time, guys, I was like doing the thrifting thing and the video game pickup thing. On Facebook, somebody had 2 of these. They wanted like $100 for both of them. And then somebody had a lot with an Ice Blue for $100 with Conker's Bad Fur Day and some games and stuff. So in 1 week, I ended up picking up 3 of these blue consoles. I sold one and I traded one to Savage up in Canada. So very cool to have those. Just looking for the last 2, you know, the smoke gray and the watermelon red. So I was walking through a thrift store one day, and it's a thrift store I go to all the time. Guy was walking out, he had a bag of N64 games, and I was like, oh my god, I was too late. But I was like, well, maybe he missed something in the scraps, you know, maybe like a rare sports game, or just couldn't afford something and left it. So I go over there, and there's no games left. But on the floor, underneath the glass cabinet, you know, the glass cabinet, and then there's like the stack of, you know, stuff that they keep back there in the I don't know what they call it. Whatever, the showcase. But on the floor, he must not have looked because there was a Pikachu edition Nintendo 64 with the cords and the controllers. And guys, I paid $12 for this. So very excited to have that into the collection. If you've never seen one of these things work before, when you turn it on, Pikachu's cheeks light up, they flash, and then they turn solid red when you have a game in there. So very cool to have that. Okay, I lied. I'm going to show you one controller. This is a very cool controller. This is the Extreme Green Nintendo 64 controller. Again, it's different than the Jungle Green. If you ever see on eBay, ask Glenn Plant on his channel. You know, you see some of these that are marked as lime green or extreme green. I asked him what the difference was. He said if it's an actual Nintendo licensed product, then it is an extreme green controller. Lime green is something they came out with sort of in the secondary market, a non-trademark type of name that is kind of generic. So if you ever see a Nintendo brand controller that looks like this on eBay or Amazon and it's marked lime green, it might actually be cheaper. They may not know that they actually have an extreme green controller, which, you know, they go for 30, 40 bucks, whatever it is that they go for. But yeah, so I thought that was cool. I got that from a friend for free. Thought this was awesome. I picked this up at a convention. I think it was the Ohio Games and Toys Convention or something. But it is a prepaid cardboard. Had Ogre Battle 64 in it, but now it's got Chameleon Twist. And they would basically put used games in here, and if they had the manual, they'd put the manual behind there, and then they'd sort of wrap these in plastic, and they would sell them as pre-owned games. So to have one of those is pretty cool. I might try and put that in a box protector just to sort of protect the cardboard. Back in '97, we didn't have DVDs and all that stuff. We had VHS tapes, and Nintendo 64 put out a lot of VHS tapes promoting all their new games and systems and extras. Sony did it with CDs. They put them in the magazines, but I found this at a thrift store for 99 cents. Thought it was cool. It is hot tips, cool cheats, sneak peeks with Funko Land written all over the front there. It's the Insider's Guide to N64. It's got previews and, you know, all that stuff on there, which is kind of cool. And the last thing I want to show you before we get to the games is this Nintendo 64 drawer system. Now this is the smaller one. They do make a bigger one that holds a lot more games, but I was very happy to have that. I got that in a box. Like, I bought a box of games, and that was in there. It was one of the things that I wanted to keep, so I sold the rest, like everything else, just so I could keep that. Let's get to the games. Oh, check out this N64 commercial for your viewing pleasure.
Showtime. Barry Fox to Rubber Froggy. I am leaving the farm.
Nintendo 64.
Power up. Speed. Bam!
3 times more powerful than any other system.
No, it's not dangerous. Unless something goes wrong.
Now only $189. Complete 3D movement. with unique joystick. Unique rumble pack. Wonderful players simultaneously. Only on Nintendo 64. Now only $199.
This stunt requires a split second. That's a train going past. Wait.
6 out of the top 8 selling games. So many games. Nintendo 64. Yes, just $199.
All right, welcome to the games portion of the video. If you skipped ahead, welcome. If you made it through all of my rambling and I love the N64 speech, then here we are. When I do my collection videos, guys, I'm not going to show you every single baseball game or football game, tennis game. They're all right there. I did pick out a handful that I wanted to talk about. And game that I love this game as a kid. It was a great arcade game. And it's a game that I pull out from time to time. And I just love to play it. I don't play through season mode. I just kind of play exhibition. But that is NFL Blitz. Probably my second favorite arcade football game of all time. After Tecmo Bowl, of course. But I've got Blitz 2002. I'm missing the special edition. So we talk about like subset collecting. That's what we're talking about. Mia Hamm Soccer. Now, Mia Hamm was a soccer player on the U.S. national team back in the day. She's very good, world famous, one of the best players in the world, one of the best players to ever play. Scored a lot of goals, was great for the game, great for the women's game. And she was popular enough to where they made an N64 game about Mia Hamm's soccer stuff. But I'll tell you, although this game is really fun to play, and the controls are easy to learn. It's just fun to play. It's an arcade soccer type game. The graphics do not hold up. It is not a pretty game at all graphically, but it is tons of fun. So cheap game. If you see it for under $5 and you're a casual N64 person, definitely check that out. So when we talk about sports games on consoles, there's always a couple that are really expensive for whatever reason. So I'm going to show you two right now. The first one is International Superstar Soccer 98 with, I think that's Carlos Valderrama, if I'm not mistaken, maybe. Played on the Colombian national team. But I got this at a yard sale for like $1, and that was after the Shark got there and got all the good games. This was left over. This is about a $20 soccer game. So if you ever see this out in the wild, or you see this in a lot of N64 games, it's got a little bit of value to it, so just remember that. I think I picked this one up at Maxine's Bargain Box in Newark, Ohio for $2. It is NBA In the Zone 2000. Now, we're thinking about things logically. The N64 came out in 96, 97, depending on your region. So by 2000, they were kind of done making games for it. So these later release games, it's usually a later release sports game that they short printed. This game goes for about $30, guys. So if you see it, make sure you check it out. It is a Konami title, so again, if you're subset collecting and you're trying to get all the Konami games, there you go. I was a huge wrestling fan back in the day. I'm more of an 80s, early 90s, new generation, sort of early into the Attitude Era, wrestling fan. And N64 had a ton of good wrestling games on it. A lot of them are really good. I don't have any complaints about any of them. But one of my favorite things about wrestling games is the rosters. And NWO versus WCW World Tour had a really huge roster. Had all the megastars from WCW and NWO, but also had like independent wrestlers and New Japan Pro Wrestling wrestlers on there. So yeah, I love that game. Spent a lot of time playing as a kid. We had WCW, NWO Revenge, Backstage Assault. WCW Nitro. I remember buying that on the PlayStation 1 back in the day. WrestleMania 2000. Gotta love Vince McMahon. WWF No Mercy. It'll always be WWF to me. ECW Hardcore Revolution. WWF Attitude. WWF Warzone. And the last one here is WCW Mayhem. Okay, if you ever watch any of my collection videos, you know, especially the newer ones, we like to flip through these real fast. We got Extreme G, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, F1 Pole Position 64, San Francisco Rush Extreme Racing. The Russian cruising games are amazing. War Gods, Power Rangers, Lightspeed Rescue, Gex 3, and Micro Machines Turbo, N64 Turbo. World Driver Championship. NASCAR 2000. Woo-wee! NASCAR! Indy Racing 2000. Nuclear Strike 64. Actually not a bad game. F1 World Grand Prix. Hot Wheels Turbo Racing. It was either whatever Turbo or whatever 64, right? Monaco Grand Prix. Army Men, Sergeant's Heroes. It's one of my brother's favorite games. 1080 Snowboarding. Everybody loves this game. I like it, but I'm not in love with it. You know what I mean? Gex 64. Automobili Lamborghini. I think I got that at Goodwill for a couple bucks. Multi Racing Championship, MRC. Forsaken 64. 007 The World Is Not Enough. Wipeout 64. And Twisted Edge Extreme Snowboarding. How about that? Ready to Rumble Boxing. I bought that on the PlayStation 2. I think it was Ready to Rumble Boxing 2 or 3 or something. And it was really cool. A game that actually doesn't get a lot of, I would say, hidden gem right here. Top Gear Hyperbike. Only because in racing games, for some reason, they struggle with the controls. Like, nobody play tested the game. In that game, it actually feels like somebody play tested the game and went, wait a minute, we need to fix the controls. Vigilante 8, combat racing at its finest. Army Men, Sergeant's Heroes 2 in the green cart. Check this out. We have Army Men, Sergeant's Heroes 2 in the gray cart. Later release games that were in colored carts generally came in a gray cart because they're cheaper to make. It's cheaper to make the gray color than it is the green color. And I think there's like 13 or 15 gray cart variants, with Bassmaster 64 probably being the rarest, if I had to guess. Toy Story 2, Fighter's Destiny, Bass Hunter 64. Surprisingly not a bad game here. Xena Warrior Princess. This is a 4-player fighting game, kind of like Power Stone, but not as good. But yeah, if you're into fighters and Xena Warrior Princess and Titus games and N64, all in one, just for you. Let's get these organized. Mace, The Dark Age. Revolt, actually kind of a cool remote control car racing type game. Winback, very inventive for the time. I can never get used to the controls. Deadly Arts. Top Gear Overdrive. Rush 2 Extreme Racing USA. America. Tetrasphere. Milo's Astro Lanes. Space Invaders. God, they still make Space Invaders games today. Aero Fighters Assault. Got that at VGMX for $4. How about that? Roadsters. Beetle Adventure Racing. Gotta have this. If you don't have this N64 game in your collection, you are not a real gamer. Rugrats Scavenger Hunt. Just kidding. Ridge Racer 64. Aero Gauge. I thought this game was going to be awesome. Again, controls are very difficult. Alright, starting off hot on this one. Golden Nugget Casino. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. Is that Seeds of Evil? Yes. Doom 64. Duke Nukem 0 Hour. South Park. Nightmare Creatures. Virtual Chess 64. I got that from Muzz over at L1 Games. He gave it to me for free. So definitely check out that store. Fighting Force 64. I actually don't think I've ever played that. Duke Nukem 64. Our Marines. Pretty cool title there. Starting off hot on this stack. Razor Freestyle Scooter. This is another one that's sort of often overlooked because the PlayStation 1 version is not very expensive. This version here sells for between 17 and 20 bucks. So if you see this one cheap, definitely pick it up if you're looking to resell it. Gauntlet Legends. I think I got that at Goodwill for a couple bucks. Clay Fighter 63 1/3. Isn't that exciting? Rayman 2 The Great Escape. GT64. Extreme G Racing 2. Those are pretty cool games. We got Mortal Kombat 4, Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero Mythologies, Glover, and we've got Elmo Number Journey and Elmo's Letter Adventure. How special. Shadow Man. Actually cool game, rated M. So again, if you're subset collecting and you're going for all the M-rated games, it's got a voodoo theme to it. Mission Impossible. That's one of my childhood games right there. Brunswick Pro Circuit Bowling. Excite Bike 64. Actually not a bad game. Body Harvest. Pretty cool. Spider-Man. Spider-Man. In a red cart, Spider-Man. Cruisin' USA. Love these games, man. That's why I love Horizon Chase Turbo on the PlayStation 4. Cruisin' Exotica, because it plays just like these games. Cruisin' World. So fun. And Quest 64. Asteroid 64 Hyper. Quake 2. Fighter's Destiny 2. Quake 1. Scars. Or S-Cars. Pilot Wing 64. You know, you guys out there that love Pilot Wings, man, Pilot Wings is cool. I really can only play it for a couple minutes. I kind of get bored with it, but I can see why some people like it. It's nice and casual. A Bug's Life. Hexen. South Park Rally. Battle Tanks. Here's sort of a hidden gem right here. Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. Actually a pretty cool game. It's, you know, it's like Pac-Man, but it's got some puzzle elements to it. Pretty cool game. Rockstar game. Monster Truck Madness 64. Not one of their better titles. We got Chameleon Twist, the aforementioned. Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Wheel of Fortune. Somebody paid $3.99 for that. Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. I tried to get into that game. I played maybe 15-20 minutes of it. Dark Rift. Might have to go back to it. Love Star Wars. Shadows of the Empire. It was cool to see an expanded universe storyline get its own game. That was awesome. We got Lego Racers. Rogue Squadron. Castlevania. I don't think that game's as bad as people say it is. You guys know I love compilations, so we got Midway's Greatest Arcade Hits Volume 1, and we've got Namco Museum. Alright, this is sort of the last stack here before we get into the good stuff. And these are games that are sort of interesting that I just kind of picked out. Some people talk about, not a lot of people talk about, that kind of thing. Some of my favorites. But here's a cool game, Buck Bumble. Pretty interesting title there. F-Zero X. Hydro Thunder. This game doesn't get a lot of love. The Great Kart's actually pretty expensive for the N64, but it was an arcade racer back in the day. It was great. My favorite game, Star Fox 64. Treasures, awesome game. Mischief Makers. I know these games have sort of been talked about, but I just want to kind of give them some extra love. You know what I'm saying? Here's a game that nobody talks about. This is Star Soldier Vanishing Earth. When it comes to shooters, and when I say shooters, I mean shmups, that kind of stuff. There's really only a few on the N64, and this is one of them. Star Fox probably being the other most famous. This is a top-down vertical scrolling shooter. It's beautifully done, and it's well executed. I really enjoyed it. Sucker Punch. Rocket Robot on Wheels. Resident Evil 2. You can tell this is quality because these cartridges are like heavy. Bomberman Hero. And for you Pokemon folks, we got Hey You Pikachu. I do have the microphone for that somewhere. Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Stadium, and Pokemon Puzzle League. So, one of the best third-party developers on the N64 was Rareware, and here's sort of a handful of sampling of some of the games I have. Some of them are in other spots, and I'll show those to you, but we got Blast Core, pretty inventive, Killer Instinct Gold, Mickey Speedway USA, Perfect Dark, Jet Force Gemini. Underrated Rareware game, does not get a lot of love, but it's actually really, really cool. Banjo-Kazooie. Yes, I am missing Banjo-Tooie, but we have Donkey Kong 64. Acquires the expansion pack. And probably the most famous of all the Rareware games. We have GoldenEye 007. I don't know if this is my childhood copy or not. Probably not. But tons of fun playing the multiplayer on that. And the story mode wasn't that bad. Alright. Not Rareware games, but some of the better games, we're getting there. StarCraft 64. Excited to have that. Zelda Ocarina of Time. A game that I want to play this year. Never played Ocarina of Time. I know. But it is on the docket to be played this year. Maybe soon. And Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. Yoshi's Story. Another game that I've never beaten. Super Mario 64. Awesome game, I love it. Dr. Mario 64. Don't think I've ever played that one. Mario Tennis. Mario Golf. And we have a slew of Mario Parties, 1, 2, and 3. So awesome to have those. My kids love to play the Mario Party games, which is fun to play with kids on the N64. Games that are older than they are. Now, I don't have that much boxed N64 stuff, but I'll show it off. These are actually universal game cases for Wave Race 64. Cartridge and manual are in there. How exciting is that? But I ended up getting these cases at a game store for $1, and then the cardboard inserts, somebody had cut them up and thrown them in the 25-cent bin at a local kind of retail store. So I was like, man, that's pretty cool. I'll just buy those. And then we got Diddy Kong Racing, the other Rareware game that everybody talks about. There's the manual, and the game is in there. See? So that's pretty cool. Diddy Kong Racing's awesome. Got a couple sealed games, nothing special here. Madden 2001 and NFL Quarterback Club 99. CIB stuff right here, another copy of Madden 2001. Honestly, I probably have a loose card of that I'll have to dig out and just throw in the trade or get rid of bin. The new Tetris, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, Wave Race 64, so there's a complete in-box copy of that, and Mario Kart 64. This is a very nice box and manual and all the inserts. I got it from Woodbury and Retro Game Hunter. The game is actually not in there because the game is in here. So let's look at my secret storage shelf of games. Okay, so we're going home. Wrestling term. Here's the finish of the match. Here's that Mario Kart 64 I was just telling you all about. Chameleon Twist 2. Actually not a very common game, so if you can find it for a good price, make sure you grab it. I'll just throw that up there. Awesome game. Played through that a couple years ago. Mystical Ninja. It's kind of like Mario 64 and Zelda. Mega Man 64. Super Smash Bros. The original, the OG. Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask with the lenticular cover, which is kind of cool. Pokemon Stadium 2. I remember I picked this up off of like OfferUp or Facebook or something for $10. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. This was a Blockbuster exclusive, so if you can get your hands on a copy of it, definitely do so because it's not very common. Harvest Moon 64, a game that I traded games for. I traded like a bunch of Spyro PS1 games for. Never played. Shame on me, right? One of my favorite N64 games of all time, Conker's Bad Fur Day. I was just live streaming that the other day, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all your CM Retro gaming goodness. That's my plug. Ogre Battle 64, Power Player Paul's favorite game, Bomberman Second Attack. I remember I picked a lot up off of OfferUp or Facebook or one of those things, and they went 125 bucks. It was a Nintendo 64, a bunch of games, and I saw this game in there. I messaged them first, and the guy was like, well, since you messaged me first, if you come pick them up, well, you know, I was like halfway there already. My daughter and I went, and he was like, people were offering me like 150 and 160 for the lot, but it's cool to have an honest seller. And lastly, my rarest, most expensivest N64 game that I own. Going to Half Price Books, man. You got to go game hunting. You do it like every day. Every time you pass one, go in there. Like, you got to stay on it. Saw this game in their cabinet, and it was $49.99. Came with the manual. And I was like, what? But that game is Super Bowling for the old N64. Be very careful opening this. This doesn't come out of the case very often. It came in this universal game case, which was nice. There's a manual. Seth wrote his name on the front and the back. I don't know what the point of that is. Seth, I'd like to go back and Ninja Chicken. And here we go. We got the game mid condition. I checked the board. It's legit. Seth again wrote his name on the back. But it's a UFO title. And the reason this is so rare is that it came out in 2001, which there was a Super Bowling game on the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, but this one came out in 2001. The GameCube had already come out. Nobody cared about N64. Nobody cared about N64 bowling games. So it sold very, very poorly. And yeah, I tried to play it. It's not that great, but this game actually goes for quite a bit of money, which is awesome. That is going to do it, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know this video is long, but I do love the N64. If you skipped ahead, consider going back and watching my thoughts and review of the N64, as it were. Let me know in the comments section down below what some of your favorite N64 games are. And as always, we will see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves.